Hey guys, welcome to Conscious Conversations. My name's Luke McLean and we've got a big episode today. I think this will probably be my most watched or listened to, episode once it starts, getting the traction. I thought that'd be nice to do a bit of a preface before we get into the guest. I don't talk a lot about my time at Cotton On social networks. I probably should. I spent 10 years at Cotton On as, starting as a personal trainer for the executive team. And then I moved into a wellness manager role. And then I sort of moved into a coaching role around mindfulness and leadership and culture. And I left there earlier this year and I still consult back to them. I still do leadership and mindfulness work and culture work back with one of the brands. And, I think I'll continue to work with Cotton On and off right throughout, because I love the culture and I never left on bad terms. It was a chance for me to grow and move into a direction that I wanted to move in, and the timing was just right. And I am really, really grateful for the time that I got at Cotton On as an employee. So much. I went there with no experience in leadership, culture, mindfulness, and it is a place where they talk about that you can start here, go anywhere, and that was definitely my experience. And my personal relationships, professionally, I will be forever grateful for that time at Cotton On and how it shaped me as a person. So, and I was very lucky because I got first-hand experience and first-hand relationships with, the executives, the leaders. That was, part of my role early, and with Nige Austin, who owns Cotton On, who started it, and that's who the podcast guest is today. So I just thought that was a bit of an insight into why we've got Nige on the podcast. Now, if you don't know the Cotton On story, it's a pretty amazing story that Nige started at Beckley Market, which is a market in Ballarat. He talks about this in the podcast early. He started selling jackets to get some cash for uni, really. He had retail right through his blood from an early age. He talks about that and really talks about how he fell in love with retail and his experience with that at the early days. The podcast then really goes into Cotton On's growth, culture, leadership, wellness, mental health. We talk about a whole range of areas of, the COG culture. So, it's a pretty fascinating, if you're not in the inner sanctum of Cotton On, this is a really fascinating conversation of how an Australian business went from a market to, in every continent, to 1,500 stores to 20,000 employees, over a 30-year period. So I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you like it. I'd love any feedback, but, without further ado, this is Nige Austin. My name's Luke McLean, and this is Conscious Conversations.
So I guess the starting point, and we've had a few chats like this, mate, but, I wanted to talk to you firstly about, growing up, so much family involved at COG.
Yep.
But what was it like growing up in that family environment, with your immediate family, but then with the cousins and that extended family that was close?
It goes right back. We were very, very close family. So particularly mum's side. Dad was in business with his brother and a lot of the family also worked in Dad's business. So I always grew up around it, and I could never probably ever see the delineation between family life and business as well. It always felt that way. It was always quite intimate. And growing up, would be playing shop with Nat, McLean and Marsh and my sister, and would always actually retail was what we grew up around, and would actually do it at home anyway. So it was more, I don't know, we always just, as things grew, you'd always look to mates, and family was seen as mates, and would just find where there's a problem, they were our first go-to. We had a really strong relationship, and we trusted. Not only were they very talented, which certainly helped, it wasn't as if we wouldn't have worked unless they were the right people. But I think it really helped that we trusted them, and we've had our fair share of, like any families, it gets dysfunctional at times. The good thing is we can have it out pretty quickly. So we've had those moments, but we actually the luxury is that we get past it. It's been tricky. Yeah, it's been tricky from my seat, understanding how owning the business and starting the business, and that's bigger, and having a number of different family in different roles. But for the most part, it's been pretty smooth.
Yeah.
I think it's all based on the strong relationships that started, the grounding relationships. Yeah.
And were you, as a kid, were you ultra competitive always? Like, were you the most competitive out of the cousins and stuff, or did that come a bit later on?
I don't think internally we were that competitive. I don't really remember that much. We'd always be playing the whole time, and don't ever remember that we'd actually be. I remember the backyard cricket games, but it was never, probably not the sporting. We'd actually just play, and they were more my memories. It was a lot of side by side stuff more than it was, very close knit, incredibly close knit family. My grandfather, our grandfather, was a butcher, so we always around the family. That was the family business on mum's side, and so we were always hanging around there and learn. He always had wisdom for all of us. It felt more side by side. We were really strong, and it was our football team. It was our family, whether it be Geelong or the local footy team. It was more side by side than anything else. But I was competitive when it got. Yeah, there was the odd game of Monopoly. Things got competitive. I remember that. It was certainly with Dad. We'd have our fair share, but I don't know where the competition stuff come from, because we're all fiercely driven.
Yeah. I guess that's a better word, fiercely driven. When did you have that realisation that you were more driven than most people, especially at a business perspective? Was that early on, or was that a bit later? It's
interesting that it's not. I think when you find the thing that you love, you just want to be great at it. But from the first time I started, well, not the first time I went to the markets, because the first time I got my ass handed to me, because I was a complete disaster and had to sort of have a good look at myself and go back the second week. And probably from that second week onwards, that it really sort of kicked in that was something I could be great at.
And so talk to us about the first week, and then what was the self-reflection practice like for week 2 of the markets?
Yeah, so first week it was, got off to the markets. The market started at 7. I got there at 7, or maybe a touch later, and I got a shitty location, totally unorganised. I had the product at the wrong price and hadn't done my homework, and I think I sold a couple of jackets, and that was about it. And then so I went back the second week. I had a negotiation with the vendor who I got the product off, and said, look, this didn't go so well, but if I reckon I could move the price from 30 to 20, I reckon I'll sell plenty of these. No worries. So I just sort of got the resolve from there, and thought, look, no, I've got to make this work. It was actually out of necessity. I was at university and I needed the cash, so it was actually it started from a need more than it was a desire at that point in time. So. But got back the next week, got back there at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was in Ballarat, so it was middle of winter and it was bloody cold. But I was organised, and it was the same philosophies today. That product, price, presentation was on the table. These are the key things today. I look back today, and the philosophies that still apply at the Cotton On Group right now is the same as what it was back there from the first time that that I went to the markets. Anyway, it was a huge success that day. I was that bloody busy. And it felt great. So there was definitely that addiction part to it. So I was like, it was really rewarding. There's a financial reward, but also going, man, that felt great to be that busy. Which, again, still there's something about it definitely is rewarding to know that you're doing something well, like anything in life, I guess. But that's still the underlying drive today, is to still be the busiest in the mall.
And there's still that energy, isn't there, at Cotton On, of it's a need. Like, it's not it'd be nice to have, but even in any project or whatever, it's the energy. It's a need. We've got to get better. Yeah,
it is a need. It's expected, probably. Yeah. I think we always want to get, and it's just changing. The landscape's changing more than ever. So, it's that we're never comfortable. It's that founder's mentality of it's the first day. It should feel like the first day every day, and we never want to rest on our laurels, or it's just got to up for a fight and a climb and working out what the new challenges are. So you got to love that, and it comes with its ups and its downs. So we're just trying to be more balanced in that view because there's going to be downs. So I got better at learning to deal with those times along the journey as well. Enjoy both. You've got to enjoy the grit though, get in the trenches and enjoy the fight because there's definitely, it feels like a lot more of those times than the smooth sailing in retail.
And mate, so you get that week 2. When does it sort of, at what part do you realise that there's a shop involved, there's a store, and then there's actually, this could be a career? Not...
It was a while later. A little while later, not that long, but I would have been about 20, I guess. And I remember having a conversation with a family friend, and he said, "Oh, this is a good start, but you'll probably close, these couple of these stores." And I'm like, "Nah, no way. This is it. We've got 3 stores. You don't know how good this is." So I thought 3 stores was great, and thought that was pretty happy with myself then. But there was about that time when we got it moving really well that we set back and thought, man, we are very, very, very good at this. So you could see that we were doing something different that hadn't been done, particularly in Australia. And this was before international retail actually happened. So in Australian market, we felt there was this momentum that we were doing things a lot differently and a lot faster than everyone else. So it was about 2021. Sort of going, this is something that I could be great at.
Yeah. And did retail? Did it feel natural for you? Like, you see footballers and it just looks like that's their natural place to be. Like, was that a feeling of just, this is just, it works for me? It's not a hard...
It was never something I doubted that I would do, if that was it. So it wasn't probably a doubt that it was something that I wasn't going to do. It was fairly natural in the respect that, I think it becomes instinctive. I think growing up in that environment where the family business was always in apparel or grandfather's business was a butcher. We were just in and around retail the whole time. So the grounding was there. So it was very instinctive to me anyway about what to do next. So I didn't have to overthink it or go look for validation or data to be able to support what I thought was the right thing. It was just every single time, do the right thing now. And it was just those combination of ongoing trying to do the right thing right now, the right decision for right now. And there's plenty of mistakes in there, but didn't sweat that at all. Just said, right, now we know a little bit more. We've learnt from that, get back on track and just do more of what working is, the momentum built and built and built. We sort of, but I think it's just that staying with it and constantly curious. I'm always looking around and almost some of the retail guys that know me well will have this sort of, I'll know what's going to happen next sometimes before it actually happens. Just, you'll sort of feel people, because you're always observing what people are wearing, and it's all walks of life. So you just, whether it be the local school drop-off or the kid, the parks to see what the kids are wearing or, at the supermarket, just to see what most people are wearing. So always digesting what people are and observing what people are wearing. So you're taking in all these all the time now subconsciously without even knowing it. So always people ask, where do you see it? And it's actually everywhere.
Everywhere, you always say that.
Yeah, and so I can't really sort of say what are 1 or 2 things. You just got to, if you can train your mind to look, you'll see it. And so then it comes to the decision and it's your validation's already there because instinctively you can, and your confidence and instinct will guide you and follow your gut. And that allows you to move pretty quickly.
Yeah. And in the early days, like, what values were values were guiding you and guiding the business to really in that sort of startup phase that were driving hard then?
Definitely merchant. Definitely a merchant, and that ever better was strong. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we enjoyed the grit. So building stores and opening stores and doing it resourcefully, that tin shed mentality was definitely alive and well because it needed to be. And family as well. So all those in togetherness and in building really strong relationships and people. We're always in genuine care and empathy for everyone on the team.
Yeah.
But you would have a great time along the way.
Yeah.
And it was an adventure because going from new towns or new cities or it was a big move when we first opened up in Perth or our first Melbourne store. These are big milestones that we celebrated hard.
Yeah.
We enjoyed the moment. It really sort of resolved the team and pulled them all together and we stayed together. And just shared success and along the way, and it was good.
we'll talk a bit. Let's have a chat about Ever Better, because it's a term that people that aren't cotton on people probably have never heard. But this idea of it's a value at cotton on, which is Ever Better.
Yep.
And I love the value because it's the idea that we're on a constant stage of growth and improvement in whatever we do and however we do it.
Yep.
But how does that come out for you? And how do you sort of talk to it?
It's that it's getting better every step of the way. Growth has been an output, but it was never really the driving factor. The store numbers. We used to have metrics there, which was always a good target for us to stretch ourselves to go after this new store numbers or growth. And growth was probably just more of a metric about getting better. It's just this inner desire to want to improve and get better at what we do every single day. So get out of bed and so just never rest. It becomes retail's a bit of an art too. It's it's a great creative outlet as well. So we just that's ever better for me anyway. And there's so many new entrants to the market, and there's new channels for the customer to shop at, and so it's ever changing. So it's just always been there. It's always just been this way to describe our journey about wanting to improve every step of the way.
And you apply that Ever Better to other parts of your life?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. All facets. So it's just I'm a naturally driven person. But I'm just as driven when it comes to the foundation or family life or work-life balance or health and fitness or mental health or the way that that we farm and our horses and our football team every single step of the way. It's we love the challenge, but also as I've got older, I want to make sure that you really enjoy the moment as well. So just taking the time to slow down and go, you know what, that was great. I love the strength of possibility of what can be for tomorrow as well, and I love it. I'm definitely a dreamer like that. It gets me to sleep most nights, but then really now appreciative of what we do have. As we've gone through COVID, and it's not about more and not about more stores or more sales or more things or more commodities. It's enjoying the journey just as much as it is, and we do like. The sense it is rewarding to get better at what you do, and that is part of the journey. But it's not just about tomorrow. It's about just as much as enjoying every single day as well. I think we're doing a decent job of that at the moment.
Yeah, and I think even in the 10 years I've known you, there's been a shift from really enjoying the moments more and more appreciation for what we've done, whilst not losing the energy and drive to continue to get better at that cost. How would you... anyone that knows you, how would you describe your energy? Like,
how would I describe it? I know a lot of people would say it is high energy. It's the same thing as I want for my kids. When you find something you love, the energy is endless. It's just not like something you want to do from a 9 to 5, or you got to do your manage a 38-hour week. It's actually all you want to do. And it's more about probably me now is actually making sure that balance is there to spread it across a number of different things. It was really easy when we first started, and I'm glad we started when I was young and single and no kids, because I could give it all my time and energy, and I loved it. It wasn't work; it was something I loved. So now it's sort of the energy. Yeah, I'm really lucky that I've got so many things in my life that I love. And get to choose now also where you spend the time. So that's the work-life balance. That's lucky. But so having so many choices, I've got lots and lots of energy for those things that I love.
But I think that's come out of also, mate, your curiosity to find other things, not to just pigeonhole yourself in one thing, but your idea to be really curious to what's possible. And then that awareness to go, actually, this energises me as well. And put some time into that, because understanding there's a balance there now. And I know people would be listening to this podcast and go on, Nige, he's got thousands of stores, he's done all this. But understanding that at an early age, you found what you loved. You had a adept skill to do it. And this drive, and got probably the right support around you at the right times. There was a lot of things that went right for you, and there was your setup to do that. It's not just you were half liking it and sort of just went in, dipped your toe in. This is, I don't think people understand when they start a business or what they want to do, that to become really good, you've got to love it.
Yeah, you gotta love it. It's got to be an addiction. You just got to be so. It is full on. It's to be great at it. You've got to. It's got to take up a lot of your. It's got to take a lot of your time, a lot of your energy, all your focus. So it's tricky. Again, I think back and it got a lot of everything from us in a great way. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, doing it today again, starting up, and you got the balancing of life about family and health and relationships and all these things that at that time was just the one thing.
Yeah.
At the moment now it's sort of. So I'm glad we've done it the way I've done it. Sort of did the hard yards early, and now we can find that better balance. Which I think that's the challenge for most people in life these days is the balance. Hopefully they find stuff they love. That's. And then it's easy. It's a great problem for me at the moment.
Yeah.
Great problem for me.
And is a lot of your time now, do you sort of work that now with your time, because you have got a lot of things that you love, you're still high energy, is making sure you've got the right resources and people around you that you can deliver world class on all levels? Yeah,
really. It's been a very transformational 3 years. It's all about we've got an incredible leadership team at COG, and I'd have to say we're at our very best at the moment with the right people in the right seats. So it's been, if you go back over the journey of 8 years, we grew, and we had to evolve and change, and we've tinkered with it a lot. But now we've got absolutely the right leaders, absolute tens in key seats, is how we like to describe it, and it's the benefits you can see at the moment of the performance of the business, and also giving me back, from a personal level, it's given me back a hell of a lot of headspace and time to be able to get more of a balance in all facets of my life, which I'm loving. Yeah.
And I think a precursor to that probably, maybe not so much financially, but the last 3 to 5 years at COG, it's been quite challenging to get that right setup.
Yep.
It hasn't just come and all of a sudden click the fingers. There's been a lot of work by yourself and Pete and Ash and Mick to get that right.
And Nat and Bianca.
Yeah, and all those guys. Correct. So it
certainly has been. Yeah, no doubt. There's lots of time. So it's been a big challenge, but it highlights. We talk a lot about the high HPAs, high payoff activities. And that's number one, is actually getting the right people. It's a people business. We probably spent a lot of time. I did for the first part of my career on product and operations and management. But the more time we spent on the business and on people, and with really clear roles and getting very clear about what we're going after, we got very aligned. And I reckon that's a strength. When we get very, very aligned, we're an unstoppable force. So get aligned, be very, very clear about where you're going, have the right people in key seats, and things. We work through all the problems very, very quickly. They're not there, but we're great at getting in a room, better than ever, of getting in the room and saying, right, what matters right now? What are the things we should be doing that will affect our people and our business today? And we're doing that. We're doing that on a weekly, bi-weekly business, bi-weekly at the moment.
Yeah,
which is we're seeing the output. So.
When at the early days, when did you start to understand the importance of people? Like, when did that really sort of resonate? That, hang on, I've got this idea, I've got this drive, but actually I can't execute without the people. Yep.
It was at a number of stores. It was probably 30 or 40 stores, so it took me a while. We were behaving for a number of years operating the same way at 20 or 30 stores as we were when there was 5 to 10 stores, which was very, very hands-on. We're controlling everything. So it was actually Bryce Talley who was pretty instrumental in coming on board, who had a great knowledge of retail operations at the time, and always still does today. It was shaped our opinion a lot about how we run and how we operate our business. Because this is my first job. So I'd never had a reference point about being inside another retail business to understand about how to be able to run 1,500 stores. So we're still winging it every day. Still first job. So it was recruiting and attracting the right people. So there was a few of those along the way going, and we could get the structures in place. And we built a framework where there was we still like today to have quite a small ratio of stores to a manager. So it would allow for there to be a real relationship with the boss. We rate really highly relationship with the boss. So unless you've got too many direct reports, you can't really have that level of relationship that's meaningful. So that was always one of the foundations. Is we sort of had around that 1 to 8, 6, probably 6 in the day, and we stretched to 8 to 10. Obviously, technologies allowed us to sort of stretch it a little bit more, and also the tenure of the team as well. So it was about structure and people, and we learned a hell of a lot from these guys that we brought on board. So yeah, and there's I could go on and tell you the amount of people that have shaped us that have come in from other businesses, but recruiting the right people was key as well.
Yeah, and I think talk about the Jim Collins idea of getting people in the right seats in the right bus, but also at the right time.
Yep.
And I reckon, interesting with Cog, where you sort of, you talk about the cousins, but you get, Ash coming on, then Marsh, and then Mick at certain different times, but the times that were needed probably then. How did that sort of play out? Was that on purpose, or was that sort of more a bit of good fortune?
I still think there's a current there that, sort of things can just fall into place for you as well a little bit. Absolutely, you need luck in business, but I think there's something that's guiding us where we go, a bit spiritually almost, that that these people attract the right people that have come to us. We didn't plan for Pete to join the business when he did. He was earlier than we expected, and has had incredible impact on the business. And with that came Glenn Keast, and so it was just a bit of a snowball effect. And as we got to the right size, and it was the right time for Mick to come on board, which has been amazing for us. Nat was in the business and left and came back at the right time, and had a huge impact as soon as she came back on board. So there's been a number of those examples, and then the internal promotions have been the most rewarding. And the more so there's been some externals and family, but the people that have done the journey, that have started as a casual or a manager, and they've worked their way through to regional, to state, to country, to now becoming general managers of brands. That's actually just as much as a rewarding part as it is the sales. To see the people really thriving in the roles is amazing.
And how do you now prioritise time to be in the business, still hands on, and then on the business?
To be honest with you, it starts with nothing. So nothing in the business. Now, what do I need to do? Rather than actually trying to be there the whole time and trying to inspect all the detail. So I just sit back and say, look, what are the main things I need to stay on track with that'll impact the business the most? So being really clear with the leadership team on what the high payoff activities are, what that looks like, and staying with those and checking in on those things, or finding the white space to really debate what the right thing is to do. So it probably starts with feeling empty with nothing. And then we've got some placeholders where we fill the agenda, and the follow-ups come in between. So, and you can work from wherever these days, which is a luxury. It's always been the way, but it was only 3 years ago. I reckon I was on a plane there for a while, about internationally, almost once every 3 weeks. So it's been refreshing. That's really slowed down. Again, with the right people, Nat McLean heading up retail, and some incredible country managers who are running the businesses for us in each of the regions. So yeah, it's taken away the need of having to do it. There's probably a little bit of that was probably through habit, and now it's sort of we've been able to break that and say, look, let's just stay on the priorities and put the time and energy on those activities, and don't have to do any of it. Which was probably originally it was have to, then it was habit. Now it's really been great to be able to sit back and work on the things that make the biggest impact.
Yeah, beautiful. And how do you, mate? I always get fascinated with. How do you give yourself that white space to stay energised? But when you see someone, you can pick up a conversation from 2 months ago. You've got this innate ability to be across everything, but still away from it, not in it.
Yep. It's work out. I do plan my weeks to make sure that I've got time that's down. So with we know that. Being connected to devices all the whole time, you're not going to think, you're in the weeds too much. So getting enough time away from devices and away from the business. So that's sort of got the balance. You can actually feel yourself having so much more clarity with that. So it's actually scheduled white space.
Yeah.
To answer your question, just days out of the office. You can still be reading and observing and thinking about the business, but disconnected. Just as much as it is going for a walk or around the farm or doing something different, actually comes back with so much better clarity.
Do you seek out people to give you a diverse view of things? Have you got sort of mentors and people
Yep.
that you sort of lean on certain things to give you an idea.
Yep, and read as well.
Yep.
So Gary Higginbotham has been very transformational for our business as well when it comes to people and our management style, which is he really collated. I think it was there. He actually pulled it all together and coached us through. So let's do that. And we always have our catch ups between you and me every so often. And but reach out. Luckily enough, it's actually within the leadership team as well. So conversations with all of our general managers will certainly help that. I'm pretty lucky with my wife too. So most of the conversations are with her. She's an incredible sounding board and has very well-rounded and intelligent. So very clever lady. So
very lucky.
I'm very lucky. So and I love spending time with her. So that's so good conversations away from the business, going for a walk and chewing the fat.
Yeah,
working through some problems and coming back with the right level of clarity.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
mate. I'd love to just pick a bit of time on and talk about when that transition from Cotton On not being just about clothing and retail, that then the foundation came in and starting to want the business to be more than just clothing.
Yep.
And what did that journey look like?
Yeah, it wasn't something overly planned. Again, it felt like the right thing to do at that particular time. And we're in a pretty good shape probably in the business and looking for something else to be able to contribute back to society. Well, I felt fairly lucky actually to be in a situation that I was and I still do today, and that's really what got my curiosity on the radar. And again, this just popped up that we got asked to help, and so we did. And again, like all things, it's when the energy's there, we were all in. So that's really, when we're there, we're all in. Like, we're going to do it, we do it bloody properly. But this has far exceeded my expectations about, again, this momentum of who would have thought that it'd be as big as it is today and what we've achieved, and it's just starting. Like, the momentum's this year's going to be huge for the foundation. So yeah, I think it was always there. Again, the grounding from the family. I think we grew up around a group of people that were very big on giving back and with a strong sense of community. So I think that it all gets back to childhood and great role models and parents and wider family. So just, again, came very naturally without it being a conscious decision.
Because that was sort of done it was the right thing to do for businesses to give back as a good storytelling piece, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a sense of adventure. I think it was it. It was something when we got there and rang Stewie Higgins and said, "Let's jump on a plane. And what are you doing next week? Let's go." And he's that kind of mate who just jump on with no worries, and off we went. And look, I don't know whether we loved it. It was tough. It was pretty hard getting there. It was hard to see, but I also knew that we couldn't not do something to help. And it was but this, again, within this group of people, the Cotton On group, we've got this innate, we can do anything. We put our minds together and get aligned. We're going to do it. We're going to bloody well do it. And everyone said we couldn't.
Yeah, well,
and you can't. And
that's what
everyone's all these what you can, all these beliefs.
Yeah.
We said we're going to. Bugger that.
And I want to talk about that because I think what do you see as the difference? Because you've done it and millions haven't. Where you go from, we're going to have a store or 5 stores in Australia to we're going to have 1,500 across the globe, and we can do it, but not just as an idea or a dream or a concept. How do you go from that creative space, which you are very creative and visionary, to actually rubber hitting the road?
Yep. Good question. We all believe in the idea. We all believe in every idea. So we just come in and we wouldn't think that it couldn't happen. So this
manifestation.
Collective, it was when we said we aligned, we talked about it and said, I think we can do this. What do you think? And we'd debate it, and look, a lot of the times I put the idea on the table, and that's been probably my biggest role in it. But there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes. You've got to be better at attention to detail than I am. So getting the right people collectively, all playing their role and staying with it. So we'd ride the bumps, and we were pretty dirty on all the mistakes along the way, but we just stayed with it and fiercely determined to make sure it worked. So yeah, I don't know how this innate belief in ourselves, but it's like any sporting organisation as well. When they're there and everyone knows their role and they believe in each other and they trust each other. Yeah, it's anything can happen.
Talk to us about how the idea of body, is it true?
Most of the ideas, even in the USA, was another one. But yeah, we'd spend again part of that having fun and enjoying time together. It was up at the snow, got away for a conference and had a very big night the night before. I remember there was quite a few sore heads the next day skiing, and we got together for lunch, and that was when the conference started, and we sort of put on the table about starting a new brand, and we said, yep, let's do it. It was often outside of the four walls of the Shepherd's Court that the ideas would come. The idea to go to America was on a post-Christmas review, sitting at the Sydney Cricket Ground over a couple of EBs, and we're sitting around, and that was where the conversation happened. So it was actually work, but we enjoyed our work along the way, and still had to get back to the family as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of those big decisions, interestingly, were outside of the boardroom. The boardroom happened anywhere. It was at the back. A lot of decisions have been made at the back of a plane or the back of a car. In conversation, so we're good at having real conversation.
You've always been big on those natural but planned experiences to give that white space of creativity, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's inspiration comes from so many different places. But we as Aussies, we love travelling as well. So getting out and about, and probably don't steal that much. We like to get out to the stores. We do like the office. We love buying product. Let me tell you, that's the great thing about this industry. It covers everything. It's the logistics, it's e-commerce and IT, and so you actually get this great diversity of facets of industry under the one
and people
umbrella. And then the people and ideas that come with it. So. But yeah, mostly they're coming from outside of the office. They're not really they're internally fed, the ideas, but we'll see something in the marketplace that's outside of our four walls that will get us there. But that's when the best juices come. We've had lots of conferences and lots of travel and understanding the markets and upskilling ourselves in debate and conversation.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Mate, I wanted to talk a bit about well-being.
Yep.
As you know, it's probably where you and I find middle ground a lot on it.
Yep.
But just how, you got me on 10 years ago to sort of get yourself, but also the execs, because you saw it as a performance. That if people in good shape, they're going to perform better, and that was again well before its time. But mate, how important has wellness been for you? And when was that point where you're like, hang on, this is something that I need to do, because if I'm going to go as hard as I'm going to go.
Yeah, it was about 10 years, or maybe a little bit longer. It all actually started when there was a little gym about 300 metres around the corner upstairs from our office. And at the time it was a very small office. And rather than having the conversation outside of the office, I got all the key leadership team at that time and said, let's commit to going to the gym at lunchtime a couple of times a week. So here we are, and it was Ross Burridge and Julie Christie and Pete, myself and Hurdy and Marsh, and we'd go around the corner every lunchtime. So it actually started that way, but we were doing it as a team, and we had a lot of even adventure races. But what started it, to answer your question, I reckon it was time. Maybe it was probably getting to that age, so that would have been closer to late 30s, saying it's probably time. I'd been head down after stop playing footy. Was pretty much straight into retail. And I'd been. And retail involved coffee, cigarettes, food on the go at food courts, and so I was probably just checking and going, mate, this isn't sustainable. This isn't the right lifestyle. It's and not really setting me up for the right future. So, for a right long healthy life. So that's probably where it started, and then learnt. So it was probably coming from a long way back at that point in time, and that's where the journey started. So I was just going around the corner to the local gym and just started, getting fitter, and a lot of running, and those adventure courses together were fun.
And it's sort of interesting that I feel like you're sort of on that trajectory of your wellness, where your early days when it was you ran hard.
Yep.
It was fast.
Yep.
It was working out flat out.
Yep.
Now you're sort of more
Yep.
going to there's some yoga happening.
Yep.
A bit
Yep.
more holistic approach to
Yep.
food, etc.
Yep.
You know, talk about is that? Do you think that was just a natural?
I think it's a little bit about awareness too.
Yeah.
And it was probably everything at 20s and 30s was everything go as hard and as fast as you possibly can. So it was running and trying to get as fast as you can and timing yourself and trying to beat a measurement. And that sort of evolved into running to enjoy running, which was just much better for you, and it's actually better for your body. Moving on from there, if you think about what's right, how your body works and what works for the individual, but I'm not seeing a lot of really healthy runners out there either. They don't look really fit and strong, so it's probably more about going, look, there's running. I love being outside, and so probably the balance of again, you got me onto some resistance training. It's now evolved onto yoga, and the change there for me was more about that up and the down. So it's not sort of for this go lifestyle the whole time, just to sort of stop and just to slow down and stretch is just as what's happening internally as well as externally, making sure that all the inputs are really there. There's more challenges today on mental health, in the world. We can see that, as well as chronic disease. And so being really, if you sit back and have a look what's happened over the past 10, 20 years since the smartphone come into our world, and there's been a lot of changing in farming practices, that the quality of the food isn't what it used to be, and there's more people with cancer, and there's more people with disease, and there's more people with mental health challenges. So for me, it was sort of going back and studying, and in our conversations, you really got me onto that journey about pausing and saying, what does great look like for that part of my life? So you're probably just as passionate about and curious about that as I was about retail in the day. So knowing now that what sets you up for great mental health and internal and external health, and mental health is prevention, and making sure you've got all parts of your life leading towards a healthy individual.
And do you see that, mate, as something now that's going to become more apparent, especially with having 15, 20,000 employees and a culture that's huge of trying to, do you see mental health and that holistic health as being the next sort of wave of importance? Yeah, absolutely. We see mental health as the biggest challenge for our team today. We know that. They're telling us, I think as a society we do a great job of actually helping and getting help for people that are struggling. But what we really want to work on is going back upstream and making sure that we've got the right environment and the right practices that will lead to a healthy lifestyle, which will be a great foundation for people to be mentally healthy. Not only does it have flow-on effects from such as mental health, but it'll be physical, internal and external. But that's going to be a combination of our practices, all our facilities are about. It started off our well-being with just about physical health. Yeah. And we have. But now you can see that there's been an evolution. So it's going to be just as important. There's no point talking about the physical well-being, and you can see a lot of people that are fixated on getting to the gym and physically having a great-looking body. And we see that all over, Instagram, and there's so many places that there's inputs that we're seeing that. But without the right food and the right diet and also the right balance of, down to up, go needs to slow down. It's not going to be the right foundation for our people for it to be sustainable as well. But it's not. It was always about. Look, we sort of said it was about business output, which I think was partly to get people interested. But it was a lot about actually we genuinely care about them, and we want the best for everyone. And I get the question, all the time from people of what was your measures, what were your financial measures, your ROI on your health and wellbeing program at Cotton On. Yeah. And so much of it, my answer was, we did it because it was the right thing to do. Yep. That was the actual founding driver. We measured very little at the start because it was based on that. And I think often if that's your foundation of care, it's... I equate it, you don't love your children once they do something great. You love them and then they'll do something great. Yep. And it's the same analogy. If you just care for your people and do stuff because it's the right thing, they'll perform. Yep. Again, that was all the trust and the strength of relationships were always so strong. But we've been able to retain so much great talent in the business as well, I think for those reasons. But the new gym, honestly, we've been spending a lot of time on that. The new wellness centre is going to be, honestly, the best gym I've ever seen in the world. Like, it's just going to be, it's state of the art on so many touch points. So not necessarily the best. I'm sure there'll be better gyms with better equipment,
but for the whole environment,
Space.
about how you feel when you're in this space. Like, it's a great give back for, you know, our guys work bloody hard. We're lucky to have them every day. Look, that's probably the starting point. Like,
Yeah.
we you know, I feel very, very lucky to have this team. So it feels the other way around. I feel indebted that and lucky to have them, and we'll want to do everything to make sure they love coming to work.
Yeah.
They've got choices out there. I mean, we know today it's going to be you get choice to work at home, and things are going to change. Let's fast forward 6 months' time. Fingers crossed. You know, you're going to choose you can work from home or you can work from the office. We want to make sure that our proposition at the office is they want to come down because they love being here, not only for the space but also the relationships they have with their people.
Yeah. Oh, and I think wellness, when you come from that place, but it helps with retention. It also helps with recruiting. It helps with culture. Like, it starts to become a part of how people speak and connect and socialise. I don't think people understand. When you get that right balance of wellness in the workplace, it can have a lot of other effects as opposed to just reducing sick leave or churn.
Yeah. And our guys are doing it. You know, a lot of our guys are doing it tough in the moment. So, but I feel, and we know that, but I also feel really good about what we're doing, and feel that we're in a really good space to, you know, for the next, looking forward to this. I'm really looking forward to this summer or quarter two. But when everyone gets back to the workforce, I'm incredibly excited about not only the space that we've created, but the programs we've got, to make sure we, give back and really address world-class wellness in the organisation.
Mate, many businesses at the moment are struggling.
Yep.
And it's been, interesting to see, I'm still doing some work at COG and seeing you guys, really thriving at this particular time. And you mentioned before that your team's probably in the best shape it's been. Like, what do you put that to, that at the toughest time for many teams, your culture and your team's actually in its strongest position? Yeah,
we when this all happened, and I couldn't believe that we're closing stores. Like, I couldn't.
I still remember our conversation at the
couldn't believe
farm about it's just the cold.
Yeah, that's right. And I was shocked. I think it probably put us in a bit of a sense of shock, and because what I felt happened was we had some decisions to make and some big decisions, and we had such strong, clear values that were alive. All our decision-making process came back to those that guided us, but we're also very, very decisive. We got to work really quickly. So we knew we got in a room, we got aligned as a group again, and I reckon we're off probably a little bit at times. So we'd actually get caught up in a bit of bureaucracy and a bit of trying to keep everyone happy, as opposed to just fiercely doing the right thing. And boy, did our team responded. The stuff that's happened over the past 4 to 6 weeks, 6 months has been. But again, it reminds me back to where we probably were, Luke.
Well, I was going to say, is that attribute to the culture that then when there was adversity, you guys, that was actually a time where most people are the best.
Yep. But I think it was more the COG way. So it was no bullshit. It was like, this is what we're doing. This is what we've got to do. We're doing it. And we decided, we aligned. No one debated it. No one crossed lanes. So we had such, again, the great tens and key seats that everyone knew their role. So it was just like, would agree, and everyone would break, and everyone go play their role, and it would execute, and would come back together and go, how'd that go? Right, new set of problems. What do we need to do right now? And would go and would actually do it. So it was the high level of output. Very, it was a lot of fun. I thought everyone felt well supported and connected through it all. We were in shock. We're in survival mode. We didn't know what the hell was going to happen.
Yeah.
But everyone came together, and I think that's what I'm really the most excited about now, the way that we're operating and how decisive we are and aligned we are, that we're in a great direction, and the trust levels are at all-time highs. I was proud of the way that we, to the best that we could. It's been hard on all our people. All of our people made sacrifices. There's no doubt about that. I was incredibly grateful for that. But it sort of set us up for a really strong foundation for the future now. As I feel that we're coming out of this a lot stronger, and a lot of people are coming out of this weaker. And we feel more determined than ever, and optimistic about the future, and belief. And that goes for foundation and wellness, and for selling t-shirts.
Yeah, no, it's all connected.
It really is. Yeah.
Mate, before we finish, I'd love to just talk to you. Big business and something that I know that is also on the radar, but I know it's not probably as easy to do, or else you would have done it. But how important, do you see sustainability now? And I know Series is up and running, and sort of transitioning that business into a more sustainable approach for you.
Really passionate about it. Really front of mind. So wellness, and probably I don't know whether it's a luxury, Luke. I've sort of been trying to understand why this has really got the space now. Maybe it's the space because it's slowed down a little bit. But front of mind on my priorities are absolutely around wellness and sustainability. I'm becoming an environmentalist almost. It's a real passion of mine. And then when the passion's there, if you go back through the previous story, stuff happens. And we've been having this conversation. It's been a journey, but now it's I can see it. It's actually, not only is it, I think, critical, it's also, incredibly rewarding as well on a number of different fronts.
And it's not as easy though, is it? Like when you've got a business the size of yours, it's not as easy to just all of a sudden change it to be all sustainable straight away. There's a lot of things that need to take place, and it is a bit of a journey. But there's a lot of great work that's already happened. That's what I mean.
That's probably been, even with the foundation, we don't talk about it enough, the great stuff that does happen. So more for me, it was about doubling down on what's working and really going after a big goal, particularly around, I'm incredibly proud of the work that's going on in the Kenya cotton, which is now going to have to extend to become African cotton, because it's actually it's wider than that. It's actually growing cotton in the right part of the world where they get the right rainfall, and it's pesticide free, and it's the right farming practices, and it's the right. So Mum was lucky enough to get over there with Peter Johnson and Paul Murdoch only late last year, but came back and they were saying that people were just grabbing them and they were in tears with how transformative this was to their life, because we're guaranteeing their income and paying them a fair price for crops as they were being grown. And so there's so many different things that tick the box for us about, it's the right thing, it's making a difference in people's lives. It's a very sustainable way of production. It's very transparent, and we know where it's going straight to the money's going straight to the farmer. And it's better for our consumer, so they're not wearing clothes that are full of pesticides, which we all know is not good for you, with the amount of pesticides in our world. So it's a bit of a passion project for me. There's 60,000, it's on our first lot, but the 60,000 t-shirts will be the first to customer in September, which is being released. So that'll be, I'm really excited about that. And then I think it can be anything. But we've got a great the rest of our cotton is very very sustainably grown, but not to the grower. So that's what's really quite, when you're making a positive difference, and they're actually getting paid the right pay. So love that. And then even in the backyard, part of the time off's been, we've got another 10,000 trees going in. I think we've put in over 100,000 trees on the farm over the past 8 years. And so it's sort of want to get everything back to nature. And we've had tree planting days out here. I'd like to do more of that as soon as things open up. Get the team back out here, so that'll be, that's the time side by side. And
how important is nature for you? Because you live in a beautiful part of the world, and you've got some other properties that are also nature based. So it's for me, that's all about family spaces. I keep on thinking, I think this is the family. I live on the family farm where I grew up, and I feel it's my responsibility to make sure that I hand that on to the next generation in much better shape than I received it. So that's with all the properties. And I really, so it's a lot about family and creating environments for our kids. So I really want them to be able to roam outside and what it looks like for them in the future. So it's a great place to grow up and for us to have great times together. So there's going to be great memories here. And then also, it's going to be in better shape when I'm long gone. And is that sort of showing up also in the school that's happening, and that's all part of that plan, isn't it?
It is, it is. I think there's a big we're starting a school called Woodline, and it's going to be a small community-based school. So you want the kids to be happy. Same with education, rather than forcing them to do things that they have to do, and kids get told from a young age, do this or else, it's the carrot or the stick. I suspect they're going to be a little bit like me, and when they find their passion, they're going to be unstoppable. You can see it already. If they're interested, Jack's interested in outer space and he's studying the moon. I mean, I can't stop talking to Jack about them, and he's 6. So when they get going, And look, we've got to make sure they don't fall behind in other areas. But I do know that when they're passionate about something, they're away and running. So creating an environment that, whether it be work or whether it be from a kids, from outside playing, or whether it be in the school environment, that they actually want to learn and do things. And that's going to be a big challenge for us in Uganda. That's going to be, not just Uganda, all the foundation schools.
Yeah,
there's a lot of kids there. So how do you actually change the educational philosophies in those regions is going to be a next part of our journey.
Because I'm really passionate about this side of you and I have lots of conversations about schooling kids and the right way to bring them up. But it's no different to the culture of cotton on that you're trying to do is find people something that they love, that they're good at, put them in that seat, give them the right support around them, make sure they don't fall over at other things, and watch them go. As opposed to giving them something they hate doing, and watching them
fail,
die off quickly.
And live a tough life. So it's just energies. If you get that's part of the success of Cotton On is you find the right thing. You are unstoppable. You are unstoppable when you find something you love. And I think that still starts from an early age. I just don't think that the sitting down at a school desk is going to be right for everyone. So we're lucky enough that starting a small community school, it'll be capped at 90 kids.
Beautiful.
So they'll be nurtured and have some space, and we all have bad days, right? So they'll be allowed to have some bad days as well, and they'll have the right support network for someone to be able to care for them to see them through those tougher days.
Yeah, nice. What's been your biggest learnings, mate? 20, how many years now? 91?
91. Well, it was probably, again, earlier than that, really, by the time I started. I think it was time that we registered the Cotton On logo, but you've cracked the 30 now. Biggest learnings, a good question. Find out what you love. Find what you love. That's and go for it. Trust in yourself and go for it.
How much of what you do is gut feel, and how much then goes to head, and then how much goes to then other people? What does that process look like for you?
I think you probably just summed it up there. It's probably instinctively you smell an idea, and then you probably go to people and you talk it through, and then the analytics last. Probably your gut's probably always going to be the guy. If your gut you're not feeling it, it's probably not going to fly. So follow your instinct about doing the right thing, and it's something that's going to motivate you and you're going to enjoy. So it's less about doing things because it's profitable. Like if a thing comes across the desk and it might be profitable, it's like going, yeah, but does it really serve our customer and our people well? Customer's important as well. We can't lose sight of what interests them. We've got to start really talking a little bit more about as the organisation has grown. A lot of those financial metrics will start to make the decision for us as opposed to what's right for the customer. So we've got to make sure we never lose sight of that.
When you talk customer, what do you mean by customer? Do you mean just by retail customer, or do you mean by...
Both. Yeah, both. And internal and external.
Yeah.
But we're only here for our customer. If it wasn't for our customer, we wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So it's all about, absolutely about anticipating what they want, but how we service them and our tone, and making sure that that Aussie laid back, no bullshit style cuts through and talks to the customer and looks after them. And that could be how we deliver the stock to the stores, or it could be e-commerce, direct to home, or how the customer is shopping in any of our bricks. They're demanding more and more, and that's a competitive landscape. So we've got to step it up, and that's the challenge. That's probably on my list at the moment. Probably making sure we really ramp up that customer proposition to be. I'm proud of it. I think there's a little bit ways to go.
Yeah. And how do you dedicate your resources or your time? Because I imagine a lot of things come by your desk as ideas or business things. What are you how do you go, that one gets a bit of energy, and no, this one's not in my space?
We're getting together with the leadership team, and we're debating it. We're finding actually time to sit back and go, right, what's the most important things right now? And aligning on them and writing it down, so you can't weasel out of them. The idea of going, if you're in the room and we say we're going to do it, we're all signing up to this.
Have a voice.
Yeah, have a voice. Yeah, I'm really at times people will, it's probably tougher as well over Zoom these days, but we're finding that everyone's got a voice now too, which is probably was missing. And we probably had too many people in the room. So getting the right environment for the right conversation. It was great to have the conversation, and the defences were on, whether you're at the snow or you're at the cricket over a beer having a chat. That's where you get the real conversation. It's always not necessarily environment. So we're really trying to bring everyone into the conversation in all the board meetings as well.
Yeah,
and not having too many people, because that doesn't allow.
It's normally when those conversations are normally when 10 people have gone home and there's 10 left. Yeah, that you start to get into the detail and the depth a bit more. Yeah,
so just having the right people in the room that really need to be, and then we might take it to the wider group from there. We definitely want to get buy-in, but sometimes the leaders are just got to make the decision about what matters most at that point in time. It sets everyone up for success. Yeah. Otherwise, everyone's chasing rabbits, all different rabbits around the place, and you'll never catch them.
Spend a lot of energy doing that.
Yeah. So I think we're getting very, very clear. But we schedule the white space. So there's actually a white space session. We go, right, we start the meeting and go, right, what should we... and for the most part, it's every Monday. We get together and we actually say, right, what matters right now, and what do we need to be doing? What's the message we need to be sending our team? That may relate to the separate meetings around COVID and different issues that's creating with different group of people. But there's a small group that we get together on a Monday and just connect. First thing on Monday morning, we say, right, what are we doing? I think that's setting up. It's probably an old discipline that we got away from. We started to treat the brands individually and individual islands, their own voices. But we've really put it back together and said, look, we need to be more aligned as a central group, and allows for dialogue and feedback, but mostly when you get the right people who represent the majority of the business with the right viewpoints, we get it right most of the time, I reckon. So,
and what's next, mate? Well, what's the future? What do you see as the future for yourself, but also for COG in the 3 to 5 years? Like, where's the energy going?
Things we've touched on today, definitely around wellness is front of mind, in creating the right environment for our team. Environment is really, I think we're going great. I think I'm really excited about some new projects there. Foundation, going well. Again, I think there's a bit of a deviation now that we've got to start looking at a little bit. There's some more opportunities there. We're raising a hell of a lot of money. In really great shape there. But I still feel that's again, there's going to be double down now. E-commerce is flying for us, so we're truly understanding what omni-channel retail looks like. Yeah, it's consuming a lot more of our time mentally and in our calendar as well. So e-commerce is really going incredibly well for us. I'm always excited about the product. I'm always that's. I was looking at some of the new collections for September and October, and that was incredibly energy giving. So I don't really want to lose sight of those, but they're probably the 5 things for me, and then customer. So really talking more about customer within the organisation, both internally and external. The customer, they're the 5 ones. It's going to be less about the growth. I think if we do those things well, we're going to have growth there. We've got the financial disciplines, and that always has looked after itself. For a little while, we focus on growth, and now it's more about focusing on the process, and we're actually more profitable. Yeah, it's the outcome. As the outcome by doing these things better. So,
mate, thanks for coming on. I know you don't do a lot of these, so
great to talk to you as you always, mate.
It's been good.
Yeah,
perfect, mate.